It's starting.
Okay, let's start.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first ever Meteor Club Hangout. Question and answer. We are here with, I guess I can show myself. I'm Josh Owens, and then I also have Sacha Greif with me.
Hey,
That,
sorry, you got cut off for a second.
is that how you say your last name, Sacha Greif?
Yeah, Greif or Greif or whatever you feel is better.
Okay. I don't know. Greif? Is that how you just said it?
Yeah, like if you were French, you would say Greif, but if
Greif? Okay. All right.
in English it would be Greif, even
Okay.
though that doesn't have very good connotations, but it's
Good
kind of
grief.
I'm stuck with that name. So
All right. So, looks like we are broadcasting to YouTube from the Hangout. They're getting some echo. Do you have headphones in? I have headphones in.
yeah, no, I'm not getting echo. Do you have like the video playing in the
Oh, you know what?
broadcast tab maybe?
Let me. Oh
I
God,
couldn't.
no. I don't know what it would be. I've got my headphones in and I've got the mic. All right.
Yeah, sorry guys, we're still trying to work this out and.
Are you still hearing echo? We'll just awkwardly wait a minute while their video catches up now. So I guess while we're getting started here, what have you been working on lately, Sasha?
I've been working on Telescope pretty much exclusively. So, I mean, Telescope doesn't appear like a very complex app, but there's always little things to fix, and also I'm realizing slowly that a lot of the code I wrote like in the past 2 years is really crap because nobody really knew anything about building Meteor apps, so we were just guessing, and
I I think a lot of people still don't know a lot about building Meteor
yeah.
apps.
Yeah, like yesterday, someone was telling me that they're not a meteor expert, and I told them there's probably only like 10 people on the planet who are really meteor experts. So you know,
Nice.
don't worry about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been fun, and but there's a ton of work. Like I finally feel like I have a picture in my mind of what I would like the app to be like and how I would like it to work. But there's just a huge amount of work to get there.
Awesome. All right. So real quick, just so everyone knows, we are using Crowdcast. We tweeted out some links earlier. Crowdcast.io/e/JoshOwens1. um,
I wonder if was there another Josh Owens before?
Apparently there must have been. I don't know. Popular name. Um, so you can go there, and we're going to be taking questions there. We also have, if you're on the YouTube, or if you're on the Google Plus page as well, you can add questions there, and I'll be kind of watching both, and we'll take some questions from each place. And I'll actually get it started. Have you had to deal with any scaling problems, Sasha, at all?
Um, well, yes and no. So Telescope does have scaling problems, but I haven't dealt with them. So,
Nice.
so yeah, no, I mean the app is can be pretty slow at times, and people, like if someone's Telescope app hits the front page of Hacker News, like that's happened a couple times, then it kind of dies. But I haven't had the time to really dig into that yet.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually been doing a little bit of work here and there over the last week, trying to figure out where the slowness on Crater was coming from, and it turns out it was mostly just me because it was like an admin only
Mm.
thing.
Yeah.
So here I am complaining, and everyone else is like, "It's fine for me." Kind of
Yeah, I
funny.
guess yeah, it's the same for me. I'm admin on most Telescope sites I visit, so it always seems slow to me because it has to load a lot of extra data
Yeah,
for the admin accounts.
yeah. So I've been doing some work with Meeting Hero as well, and they've been having some scaling issues as well. So it's kind of on the forefront of my mind is why I brought it up.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to understand that by nature, like Meteor apps are going to have different scaling issues than just a Rails or even a Node app.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess
Yeah,
next
I
time
think
we should
it's.
have
I think.
Arunoda.
Sorry, go ahead.
Next time you should have Arunoda in here to talk about
Oh,
that.
for sure. Yeah, I've actually got a blog post coming out from him on my blog probably sometime next week that talks a little bit about MongoDB and scaling and the difficulties there. So I think that'll be good. But yeah, maybe we'll have like a performance roundtable or something at the next one of these, because I seem to be getting a lot of questions around that. So, but yeah, I think publications are definitely, I said it in my last blog post, they're like the lifeblood of any Meteor app, and if you do bad things in there, I think you'll end up with performance issues. So
Yeah.
yeah, we had a weird one today. Like we were calculating statistics, and apparently like that was in the Iron Router global wait on, and if you were logged in, like every user was calculating these statistics on every page load essentially, and we didn't need it, and it was like killing the server. So
Yeah, I feel like what happens a lot of the time is you'll do that like when you're prototyping locally, you'll just do that as a quick fix or because it doesn't really feel slow locally, and then you forget to kind of stress test it, and that's what's happened for me with Telescope. Like, I was like, oh, I'll just put this there, and it kind of works, and then forgot about it.
yeah. Well, I mean, shout out to Aeronoda. That's where Kadira comes in, right? Because we're able to expose all those silly things that we've done and see like, oh wow, look at that. That's actually causing some wait time. So, all right, let's get into the first question. It's from Ryan Glover, and he says, "What do you think are the most important things that the Meteor Development Group needs to accomplish over the next year / after 1.0?" Any
Should
thoughts?
I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think the most important thing Meteor needs to accomplish is have like a big name startup use it. That's what people always ask me about, like which startup is using Meteor, which app uses Meteor. So I think like from like a marketing point of view and just a reputation point of view, that would be really important. The other thing would be, I think, releasing some kind of paid service because I just worry about the sustainability of having to pay I don't know how many salaries if they don't have revenue. So I think they're aware of that, and I think that's also a very big milestone for them, releasing Galaxy or whatever it is. So like from a more I guess business standpoint, those are the two big things that I think need to happen. And then of course there's like technical stuff. Like maybe you can get started on that. What are
Yes,
your
sure. I think. Did you say Mongo? Did you mention Mongo? I was like
no?
chatting at the same time. Yeah. So I think probably the number one request I hear all the time is, what. I'm not interested in being locked into Mongo. Like Mongo has performance issues and they're known, and like I'm just paraphrasing what I tend to hear a lot of. And so people I think are hesitant to come in because they know that or they think that Mongo is going to be a problem for them. So I think adding more database support like officially would be a pretty huge thing. And from what I've heard from MDG, I believe that Postgres is pretty high up on their list post 1.0. My understanding is, they were gonna devote a large amount of time and resources to Galaxy, which you mentioned, their higher end hosting platform, and then my understanding is they were going to devote a good amount of resources to doing, the next version of a database that would be supported, and they seem pretty excited about Postgres in particular in the talk that I had. So hopefully we see that. I think that'll go a long way in people's minds about scalability and stability and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, definitely. And I think maybe the other thing, like on my wish list, is everything that's related to not so much the backend infrastructure, but actually the application UX and app look and feel, so animations,
Hmm.
maybe pagination. I mean, if you look on the telescope, on the sorry, the Meteor roadmap, there's a few of these issues that right now are kind of taken care of by packages, but it feels kind of hacky and doesn't feel very polished yet. So also maybe things like routing. I mean, Iron Router does a great job, but I think there's an argument to be made that it should be brought back
Or-
into the core.
Yeah, I would agree
So,
with that for sure. Like I always feel bad for Chris because like managing accounts entry is somewhere on the like multiple orders of magnitude difference, and it frustrates me sometimes. So to see, like I'm on Telescope as well, so I get all that traffic in my inbox, and then I've got to imagine that for Chris, it's got to be like just a lot of work to even sift through all the issues people open. So.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So some of the people in the chat room were actually saying, spoken like a couple of Mac guys, we didn't mention Windows support. We don't need it, so why would we think about it, I guess. But yeah, I think official Windows support, maybe. I mean, to me, it's never been a deal breaker, but then again, like
Yeah.
we're all Macs in my house. Like even my kids, they've never used Windows. They go to school and go, "What is this?" Kind of funny. Yeah. All right. So we covered a good bit there. Next up, so we'll tackle the number one voted one right now. Let's see. Crowdcast is built with Node and Angular. How would you architect an app like this if you were using Meteor? This is a big question.
Yeah, and just for those who are like watching on YouTube or somewhere else, Crowdcast is the app we're using to host the Hangout. So it lets you, first of all, it's a really cool app. Like I've looked around for apps like this, and it's probably the best I found. And it lets you add a chat and polls and questions to the Hangout, and it wraps it in like a really nice UI. And I think there's even like landing pages and stuff like that, right? So
Well, let's before we dive in, let's make a poll. Let's try this out.
yeah.
What should we ask people?
Let's ask, is Crowdcast better than watching the Hangout on YouTube? We're like
Oh
giving
no. Have you
this is like
read
free advertising for Crowdcast.
Cover Meteor? I'm gonna ask them if they've read Discover Meteor.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Oh. All right. Let's see. Create a poll. Oh, whoops.
Well,
It
maybe I can
resets.
start answering while you're creating the poll.
Yeah.
So, um, like architecturing a live chat is actually not that trivial, I think, because there's an interesting aspect in like publication and subscription design, and I always have a hard time explaining these things like without writing them down like on a piece of paper and everything because
Yeah.
it can kind of abstract, but like you can't really know how many um, documents are in a publication before subscribing to it, right? So there's always this aspect of when you need to load more messages, um, you need to like make a request for like the 10 next chat messages, and then uh, wait to see what comes back basically before you know if there are actually more messages left to display. So I don't know if you've had to deal with that kind of issues. Like it's the same thing with pagination, and because like
Yeah.
in a traditional environment, like you're all doing all this data requests on the server, so you know how many documents are in your collection. But on the client, you can't really know. So that adds a little bit of uncertainty, I think.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, is that more of a design issue though?
Yeah, it's kind of both.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I mean, how would you architect this thing? So I guess I would maybe approach the question differently, just thinking about what would be involved in building it. So number one, like this is built to work with Hangouts on Air. So right away you're gonna have to, you'll create an app and probably accounts Google. That makes the most sense. And then I would probably find some kind of Google Plus API, node module, or maybe even a wrapped atmosphere package. Hopefully, a decently wrapped package. And then from there, like you're right. Like you'd build the chat and you build the polls and kind of stuff. To me, I don't think the chat would be too hard to build because there's not. It's just um, streaming list of chats. So it doesn't look like he's doing anything kind of crazy in the UI or anything like that, right?
Yeah, but ideally you want to just show all the messages, right? You want to show the first, 10 maybe, but then as more keep coming in, then you do want to show more of them. So you don't want to just limit yourself to the first 10, but you do want to preload the subscription with the first 10. So I feel like there's kind of these subscription design issues that would be interesting to work out.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Like, David Burrell's article, I guess, you just do something similar to that, right? Like he showed how you do kind of use a session to only show, or to show when there's more incoming posts or something, which he put in to Telescope.
Yeah.
But maybe you just pick a timestamp and just limit it to the latest 10 since that timestamp or something, and then as they scroll back, you could maybe trigger fetching more. But to me, like maybe that's an optimization that could wait. So yeah, I don't know. You definitely like I've built a chat app in an hour on a AirPair with a client, and we got to the point where we were both able to type in and see like a streaming list of our messages. So yeah, I think you could utilize it there as well. And then the other nice thing is too, like he's just doing YouTube embeds. So once you get the Hangout hooked up and you get the YouTube stream, there's really nothing you have to architect there, right? Like you're just showing a YouTube video with a play button, and they click that, and then from there, like the rest of this is just pretty straightforward Meteor stuff. I think the topics and the polls and the voting and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. But
yeah.
Actually,
so
Sidor, he's in the chat room, and he mentioned that he was thinking about maybe writing a Meteor version or rewriting the app in Meteor. So I don't know if that was kind of a joke or it's for real, but it might be interesting to compare notes.
It only take like 4 hours, right, to this whole thing into me.
Yeah, 2 hours tops.
Famous last words. Oh, we can rewrite that in a day.
Yeah, just do Meteor, add chat room, and you're done.
Yeah. All right. Saying they're getting lag on my video. So, looks like 15 people have read your book. 4 bought your read it. 4 people haven't bought your book, and 1 person bought it, but they haven't had the time to read it.
Well, I did vote as well, so
you haven't had the time to read it? Was that you?
No, that wasn't me. Well, although sometimes it does feel that way, like I'm like, huh, that was in the book, really? I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah, there's like a minute left here, like just some comment on switching to
yeah.
Meteor. It's funny. All right, so let
Oh well,
us.
there's a lot of questions now.
Yeah. Let's dive into the next one. What do you
Yeah,
guys know about Galaxy? I can take this one first if you want.
yeah. I mean, all I know is that it's named Galaxy. That's about it.
Yeah. So I know that I don't know this for certain, but I'm pretty sure that they're hosting some stuff on it already. But I don't think it's like full featured or fully functional yet. Um, but it is their top order of business as soon as 1.0 ships. Like they're gonna put a lot of people on it. Um, and they are. Oh, oh wow! You can actually mark that you're answering a question. I guess we should have done that before. Whoops. Um, but they're going to put a lot of people on it, and as far as I know, what the offering is going to be, you're going to be able to go in, sign up, put in your EC2 keys, and then you'll be able to kind of say like how big of a site you need to host, and it will go in and spin up the servers, and then it will do something probably akin to a Docker deploy on some EC2 instances, and everything will get configured and set up, and your app will be running at that point. And my guess is, I mean, they're going after higher end hosting. They're probably going to offer some kind of like higher level SLA support as well. So, on the low end, you'll have the kind of DIY with DigitalOcean, which is pretty speedy, but you got to manage everything yourself. And then kind of in the middle there, you've got Modulus, who starts at $15 a month, and they do a good job. Their environment's completely set up to work with Meteor correctly, unlike Heroku, which I still have trouble with Crater there on Heroku. Gonna move it back to Mod. And then at the top end, you'll have Galaxy. And my understanding is like you're gonna pay a fee. Like you'll pay for the EC2 instances, and then you'll pay a fee on top of that for Galaxy. That may change, but that's what I've heard of it for now. So, anything to add?
No, that's about what I've heard as well.
Okay. All right. We will mark as answered.
Oh, maybe I can take this one. I mean,
Yeah. Sure. Go ahead.
what do you guys think about wrapping NPM modules? So we're actually working on a blog post about this very topic for the Discover Meteor blog.
Nice.
And right now we're at the stage where Tom has written something, and I'm like, I don't understand any of this. So now we're gonna go over and until I can understand, and then we'll know it's ready for publication.
Nice.
So I don't know if you have something to add on that topic, but I wanted to mention that.
Yes. So I've done this a couple of times. My biggest thing is like I wish the error handling were either documented a little better or somehow it was better, because I've wrapped up in particular the Twitter module, and I don't, maybe this is just my Ruby way of thinking, but in the past, when I used the Twitter API in Ruby, when it would throw an error, I would just catch that and rewrap it to something a little more friendly, because unfortunately, like the Twitter API throws like a 400 for a lot of different reasons, so you really have to inspect the error message and decide like, did you hit a rate limit, or was there some other reason that you're getting this 400 back from Twitter? And so with Twit, I was trying to figure out a way to handle all that, and kind of got stopped there because I was getting all kinds of crazy fiber. You're not running this in a fiber. I was trying to wrap it all in what do you call that? Oh gosh, which
Bind
one?
environment? Or
Huh?
you mean like bind environment?
Yeah, bind environment. That was it. I was trying to wrap it in bind environment, and that still didn't work either. And so, when you're using an npm package and you don't have it bound in a Firebase in some way, and you throw an error, it actually crashes the entire server, the node server. So, I do think that npm modules need at least some amount of wrapping to bring them in. So, it's definitely something that I'm excited to hear you guys are doing a blog post on, because I'd love to see that.
Yeah, we're working on it maybe later today.
Yeah, and Aeronoda asked this question, so we'll actually make him come on here because he's probably done it more than any of us.
Yeah, by the way, his his npm package is really convenient. It's really cool.
Yeah, totally agree. We all love the Aeronodas. All right, mark as answered. All right, let's see. There's some. We can mark that one as answered. All right, so this one's probably more me than you, but the question is, what's happening with velocity? I would say there's a lot happening with velocity right now. I think testing is a pretty serious thing on everybody's mind in Meteor. I don't know how else to say that. The Meteor development group wants to see this thing finished and ready to go for 1.0. And I think that we were at the point where we were making really good progress. And I say we, like the royal we. I really haven't contributed a ton of code. Just generally try to help out where I can with documentation and that kind of stuff. But I actually started jumping in this week and started helping with the CI tool. So hopefully we can get that done as well. But we definitely hit some walls in the velocity group, particularly with the 09 release. I'm sure, as all package maintainers saw, it got a little painful with the 09 release. And in particular, now there's no way to conditionally include or denials from a package because packages are kind of pre-compiled. And so before we were looking for the existence of your environment to be set to development, and then we would include velocity into your Meteor app. But now, if we set that there, it's either not set or it's set all the time, in which case it gets bundled into production. And so that's kind of a setback at this point that we're all trying to figure out how to work through. And we're working with MDG directly, trying to get all that fixed. So hopefully by the time 1.0 comes out, we'll have all this solved. We're trying to get the CI tool into Meteor itself, so you'll be able to say Meteor test and it'll run the CI tool, and if you have Velocity installed, it'll run all that. So it's kind of where we are, getting there slowly but surely. Oh, I guess I forgot to say we were answering that. All right. Oh, getting a lot of questions now. Oh, someone thinks we're from Meteor itself.
I was looking at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to have Anderson Horowitz as an investor in me. That would be cool.
Yeah? Yeah? They don't invest in Discover Meteor, huh?
No. Well, they
All
should,
right.
because we've made more money than Meteor so far.
Ooh, that's tough, man. All right. So, yeah, we don't work for Meteor directly. I have no idea what it's like having them as an investor. Sorry, wish I could help you there. Maybe we'll get Matt on, but my guess is the real answer to that question is best heard over beer somewhere.
Yeah, it's probably not the thing you want to share with the world on a hangout.
Yeah. I'm sure it's good, though. Can't hurt. All right. Let's see. Scroll back to the top again.
Oh,
Bigger
Firebase.
monitor. All right. With Firebase solving many of the data syncing problems client-side apps face, are less people inclined to build Meteor apps?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Like, it's something I've wondered about myself, but I think they kind of fill different needs, right? Because, for example, for something like Telescope, you want to recalculate scores on the server, so you do need some kind of server-side component that will like modify the data independently from the client. And with Firebase, like I might be wrong, but I think the only way to accomplish that would be to have a second server that will do that for you in the background. So I feel like Firebase is really good for some use cases, but there's also a lot of cases for like real-world apps where you do need that server-side component. Even for things like, I don't know, sending emails, like how would you do that in Firebase? Maybe they do have, I'm not very familiar with Firebase, so maybe they do have some kind of email component, but I would be worried about hitting the limitations of having to do everything on the client.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is interesting though because you can do quite a bit of stuff on the client now, right? So, kind of had my mind blown the other day. Something I would normally do on the server, I found was being done on the client. So they were actually making API calls into Google to fetch calendar information, but they were doing it on the client side and then shipping that back to the server if they needed to save any of that data off. So,
well, but
yeah.
for example, like if you need to make any like private API calls, you don't want to share your API key with the world, so how would you do that with Firebase?
I'm not sure that. Yeah, I should look at that more. But I think the key, the API key, so for like Google or Twitter or whatever, you're actually doing like OAuth signing. So I believe the key that you're using is actually the client's key, right? Not your own. So it's a key that was generated for them to use in your app, and it's been saved off, but it is their key and not necessarily your key.
Right, but I was thinking about things like GitHub or using the GitHub API, not for OAuth, but just for. I mean, I
Well,
don't know.
again, I think you go through the OAuth flow and you get their specific API key for your app. Like, I do think you're right. There are instances where maybe someone doesn't use OAuth for their API authentication, and that could potentially be a problem. When you only have one key.
Yeah, that's
But
fine.
yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about Firebase to necessarily answer this question. I haven't looked at it in depth. I do know some friends that built some stuff using Angular and Firebase, and they were quite happy with it. But I don't know how in depth they went with it. So, I would love to find someone who's done that and kind of do a comparison side by side and see how hard it is to build stuff for the Firebase kind of backend. But this is all the holy grail. I think the difference for me with Meteor is that it's well documented. You're going to get a lot of things for free, right? I mean, I can't use Firebase and Angular and just say, Meteor add platform iOS and then say Meteor build and get a native Cordova app out of the box. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely worth something at this point.
Yeah.
So. Certainly interesting. All right.
Someone is asking for custom T-shirts for attending the first ever Meteor Club crowdcast.
Well, so yeah, we could make T-shirts, but I can't just send them to you. You're welcome to buy them. I don't have that much money. I just went out on my own, so. Let's see. We were answering one. Here we go. Stop answering. Marcus answered. There we go. Ooh, things just resorted. This is always the tricky part, right? Like people are voting and things are getting resorted and moving around on my screen. UI is very tricky in real-time apps. Still there?
Yeah. Sorry, okay. Just reading the questions.
Okay. Which one do you want to do next?
How about the scaffolding one?
Yeah, sure. Do you use anything?
No, personally I don't. Well, although I did like create a Meteor app template on GitHub, but yeah, I don't really use it that much. I feel like every project is kind of new, so unless it's like a really, really small project, it kind of deserves the time to create, to think about the architecture. But there's also nothing wrong with using scaffolding tools. It's not really scaffolding, but I do use Houston,
Mm.
kind of like on the other end. So Houston is like a really cool instant database dashboard thing that you can just add, and then it gives you a UI to see your collections and your data.
Nice.
So that's really cool. I do
Yeah.
use that.
Yeah, so Rails had the equivalent. They had a couple, but one of them was Rails admin. Seems to
Yeah.
be, pretty popular to just toss that in, especially for client stuff. Like, well, we won't build you a client backend. We'll just, throw this admin tool in place and have at the database. Kind of funny. Yeah, I would say, Bob Monsauer, I guess that's how you say that. Sorry if I mangled that, Bob. Where'd it go? See, it flipped the screen again. He uses the EM tool, or he's used the EM tool from Invented Mind. He's got a video on it. I would say, if that's something you feel you need, I remember being back in early Rails days, like using the scaffolding, but then after the 30th time removing 99% of the code that it generated, I stopped using it. So I would say that there's less stuff that you really need this for. Maybe it's good to keep your file structures kind of standard by someone else's standard or your own standard. But we when I was at Differential, we kind of did the same thing you did, Sacha. We had a boilerplate, Meteor boilerplate is what it was called, and we had standard packages and directory structure already set up and that kind of thing, and so I would definitely say, to me, that actually makes a lot more sense than a scaffolding tool, because we had little hacks, little things that we always did to a Meteor app, or we changed, like I think it still has insecure and auto publish, but we kept going back and forth about let's just blow those out of there so we don't forget about it. Like, remove that crutch so you build it right from the beginning,
Yeah.
rather than having that there. So yeah. So there's that one, guys.
And about faking dummy data, I haven't really looked into that. I just type it in manually, I guess.
There is a good article from Dave Anderson over at Differential. He's the new guy over there, just got hired. And he wrote an article about seed data, and I think he may have discussed faking some stuff as well. So I would definitely go differential.io and go poke around that blog and see what you can find. Where was that a question?
Oh, that was the second part of the same question.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. So we've answered that one. Let's just take the next top one then. So this is from Denny Scott. I was at a local Meteor meetup last night, and the busiest question we had was, what is your least liked part of Meteor? What area would you guys like to see worked on for Meteor? Nobody wants to be the bad guy, right?
Well, I think it's kind of a bit of the same thing as the first question we had about what we want to see in Meteor post 1.0.
Well, maybe not. Like, to me, I want server-side rendering like yesterday, and that to me would be an ideal thing to get right away, because I think that there are some scaling challenges that we could meet with server-side rendering kind of in our back pocket, and there are other challenges around, like, I mean, Spiderable is an okay workaround, but it's not the greatest workaround for doing SEO stuff. there's just not a lot of confidence there with it, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely the #1 thing on my wish list as well. And it's probably going to be a tough challenge, like, because you do need like to integrate that with the router somehow. So
Yeah.
there's a lot
Well,
of moving parts.
yeah, I mean, I've talked to Chris Mather about it, and he's been slowly working on rewriting the entire thing. And so, I mean, it's all based on Connect, and you can write a Connect middleware. And so I think you could do it. Maybe you take a week and write something, but it's just, I don't know. It feels like, again, this should be something covered by the core group, and I hate to build something and then have them come along and say, well, we're going to do it differently, and you've already built
Yeah.
an app around it. So
Right, and like if you think about all the helpers, like a lot of them right now, a lot of them might mix client side only code, like if you have some jQuery in there. So I feel like, yeah, maybe it's a topic for another time. I don't know. But I'm
yeah,
very anxious to see how they solve that problem.
yeah, for sure. So I mean, to me, like that's probably the biggest area I would love to see improved. Like air handling could get a little better. The async stuff could just get some better documentation. Hint, hint, Sacha. We need that part too.
Yeah.
And then I also think just I don't know, some kind of, I would love to see someone write a really strong kind of job runner package for the server side as well. That could be pretty awesome. Wow, our chat's going nuts. It's like it says I missed 111. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true. Yeah, I've missed 10. Somewhere the count got off. All right, so that one's done. Stop answering. Marked as answered. I'm doing pretty good. These are good questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to cherry pick one, even though it's got no votes. Jeremy Shimko, I think that's how you say it, says the large majority of my paying work is in the corporate space. Any experience supporting IE8 and IE9?
Nope.
Ah, okay. So I'll say yes. In particular, I wonder if they're watching tonight. The Fantasy Hub guys, early on, they were having some difficulty around IE8. I think IE9 was fine. But yeah, I would say like IE8 sucks. It really sucks for debugging. It's really, really tough to use their tools, in my opinion. I don't. Maybe I'm spoiled just by having Chrome and Firefox available to me all the time, but it's just it's really hard to dig into code. And then the other problem is, if does the problem occur in production only, or can you replicate it on your dev machine? Because if it only occurs in production, then that gets tougher because everything's kind of like minified and uglified and all that kind of stuff. And so I would say, at the time I didn't have Kadira around, but maybe the client-side air tracking might be valuable there. Maybe it would catch some of the problems you're hitting. I would just say check out Kadira. If you're doing Meteor app and you're not using Kadira, like there's something wrong with you. All right, so Mark has answered. Is anyone planning a Meteor conference? Have you heard of anything?
No. I'm
No.
not planning a Meteor conference.
In Japan. Let's all go to, where are you at? Okinawa?
Osaka.
Osaka. It started with an O. Sorry. Yeah, so I actually, when I was at Differential, like I pitched the entire team on it, and they're like, yeah, it's a good idea, but it'd be a big distraction for us. And then I was out talking to Matt DeBurgalis and said, you guys should do a media conference. Like, I'll help out. I've done them. Haven't done a media conference, but I've done a tech conference. I'm getting ready to help my wife run Indie Book Natty, so I have some experience there, and I think it would be amazing if we had some kind of like midwinter Meteor conference. I would definitely be willing to help someone if they wanted to kind of lead that charge. I can lend expertise. I can probably find sponsors, get some money on board, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I'd be happy to help as well.
yeah, just tweet at us, man. We'll help you, Ryan Glover. If it's you, we'll help you. All right, Mark has answered. All right, what else do we have again?
Speaking of file structures,
let's do that one.
So speaking of file structures, what do each of you recommend for standardizing directory structure? I guess...
You have a book on this, don't you?
Yeah, that's true, but the book isn't... Yeah, the book basically uses the same file structure we use in Telescope as well, so you have your client directory, server directory, collections directory, and then it's kind of up to you. Like, there's no big guidelines. I guess the one thing I have been doing in Telescope a lot is use packages. So I don't know if that fits in that category, but I try to make every feature self-contained in its own package. This way, if there's a bug in notifications, you know that it's going to be in the Telescope notifications package, and you don't have to look everywhere throughout the app. And I also feel like packages, they're kind of a bit more strict because you have to specify every file. They're maybe easier to test. So yeah, I would say using packages, like local packages more, is a good start if you can.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We've actually been debating that back and forth heavily at I'm doing freelancing work for a meeting here, like I mentioned earlier. So it's been almost a daily conversation of like, do we get velocity in or do we go with packages? We like the dependencies kind of management we get with packages. So do we go there? Yeah, so that's definitely interesting. And then, I would say, like you mentioned, you've got the book, Telescope. You can pull up Telescope and kind of look at its structure. You can go look at Meteor boilerplate. There's a little bit of documentation there. And then I also wrote a blog post on my blog a couple weeks ago about how to structure an app. And there you go. There's my URL at the bottom of the screen, joshowens.me. Just go back a couple posts and you can find like how to structure your Meteor app. So yeah, I definitely, like, to me, just come up with a standard and document it and share it with people that are going to be working on the app and try to stick to it. And I think that's the key, really, because then if you hand it off, it's not as painful if it's been documented and you've been able to kind of stick to it for the most part.
Yeah, and I think the rules you mentioned in that post were really good, like one template per file, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Basing the folder structure on the URL structure.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually maybe changed my thinking a little bit. I think you could have one file in that folder structure and probably have a couple templates in there if they're all used to render that one page.
Right.
But, again, like, you can do what you want. Just, like I said, the biggest thing is document it and try to stick to it. Because the whole reason I had that post, it was an angry post, right? Like, I was shaking my fist as I wrote it because someone handed off an app that was in some pretty bad shape, and that's when I was like, you know what, let's fix this.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll do the next one. We've got 9 minutes. Let's see, how many can we do? I hear again and again, Oplog is the way to go to handle triggers on data within a Mongo database, but I've yet to find any great resource on it. Could you guys touch on the subject and maybe post some articles for getting started with it? And so we've already had a couple people pop in and mention, Ben mentioned your blog post on scaling challenges, and another one on Meteor hacks called, that was Let's Scale Meteor. And I did one a couple like last week, I think, how to scale a Meteor app, and I touched a little bit on Oplog. But in particular, the two Mongo database providers, Mongo HQ, which is now Compose, and Mongo Lab, both offer Oplog options, and both of them have articles on their blogs about how to get Oplog set up with Meteor. And so the thing is, you don't really have to do anything. The biggest thing you have to do is turn Oplog on, right? So you get a replica set or something going on for Meteor or for Mongo, and then you'll get an Oplog URL, and you just set your Mongo URL and you set a Mongo Oplog URL in your environment variables, and then that communication will already start happening, and any query that is done that's supported by the Oplog driver will pick up and start running over Oplog instead. So there's really not a ton that you need to do to utilize it. You may have to pay attention to your queries. Again, install Cordova, and it'll show you whether it's using Oplog or not for queries. So great, another great instance of using that. So you got anything to add there?
No, just that it works great with Meteor app as well. So I would know that's a deployment tool.
Yeah, I would say the one caveat to using Oplog, I've heard a lot of people complain, particularly about overwhelming the servers. So like when you update a large number of records, it like pushes a lot down the pipe to through the Oplog, and so that can be problematic sometimes. So just be careful there. I don't remember where I saw that, but I did hear that was a problem. I haven't experienced it myself, but I haven't done any kind of like mass record changing in a Meteor app yet either. So there's that. Yeah, apparently there's a bug. Hey, it's Sai, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sai, when you see this, my chat shows 10 plus 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So every time someone's adding to it, once you hit 10 chat messages, the number doesn't increment past that in the little chat notification window. So we're bug finding for Sai. Let's see. I keep scrolling down to the bottom too.
I think the last one is about SVG and Meteor.
Have you done any of that?
No, I haven't. I don't know anything about that.
All right. So he kind of finds it's super useful. So I will say this. I do know that there are a number of options out there. It's not just SVG, but if you want to do stuff like this, I know that there are tons of people that are doing things like this with SVG and Meteor. In particular, there was a project at Differential right when I was leaving where they were using 3JS, and so they were doing like 3D rendering and using Meteor to kind of do real time. You could pop things on the screen and it would render them into the 3D space, and really interesting stuff. And I do believe under the covers 3JS uses SVG, so yeah, I don't know. Cool stuff. Maybe D3, does it use SVG?
Canvas maybe?
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Like, not my area of expertise. Drawing. Yeah, drawing things with code. I don't know. I am not a designer. All right, so we'll mark that as answered. Looks like we got through all the topics.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, nice. People are sharing the links as we're calling them out. That's awesome.
Would be a good feature for Crowdcast or apps like this would be a view that like recaps all the links that have been shared during the session.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Actually, I would love to have a way to like get that back into the Google Plus, kind of like a recap or something in there, or I guess we can post a link for sure, but they keep the video there forever on the kind of event page, so it'd be nice to. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know if this is syncing with the chat there. Actually, I said we would take questions from Google Hangout too, but I haven't really been paying attention there. Oh, yeah, maybe. Okay, got it. Okay, yeah, there
Oh
are
yeah.
actually a couple questions there. So we'll just answer one here about the support for the mobile platform. Do you have a plan? Um, I'm guessing based on the name Jai Salong. I don't know. Sorry if I butchered that.
Jeez Little.
Jai Salong. I based on the wording, like that maybe reads that he thinks we're part of it. MDG. I don't know. My plan. I haven't done anything yet with the Cordova stuff, but my plan is sometime in the next week or two to try to get the telescope version of Crater compiled into a Cordova app and put a Meteor or a telescope, Crater app into the App Store. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna play around with it. I know at our next Cincy meetup, we're planning to finish the planning poker app that we were doing, and we will at the very end try to get the Cordova stuff working as well. So hopefully, I'll have a recorded version of that. We usually do it live online in a Hangout. So I don't know. Hopefully we figure it out.
Yeah.
What about you? Any big plans with Cordova?
No, I haven't had the time to play with that at all.
Yeah.
I guess our one plan, like we've talked with Tom about doing a book about Meteor mobile development. I think there would be a big demand for that, but it's just it's just a project for now. We haven't really started on that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I mean Tom obviously has a good bit of experience there with Verso, even before it was built into the platform, as it were.
Yeah.
All right. Well, seems like everyone in the chat room wants Crater on iOS, and I know Aeronoda's thinking now too with Kadira Hub.
Yeah.
That like iOS as well. So maybe he'll help me there.
Yeah, and like Telescope already has a mobile version, like a responsive version, so
yeah,
shouldn't be too much work.
Yeah, awesome. Here's another one. You want to keep going, or you got a hard stop at 9?
I can do one more.
Okay. We already answered the other one, so yeah, this can be our last one. Let me just see if we got any other topics over here.
Oh, Slava has a good one.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, let's just do this one really quick. Have you ever tested Meteor with PM2 for scaling? I would say no. I've never done any scaling testing, particularly on Meteor, but I do know Adrian Lanning in particular has done. He built a tool. It's a Java-based tool, and I may tweet a link out later, or tweet at Adrian for him to tweet a link out. But I know that he's built something for sure for load testing a Meteor app. So, yeah, Google around. All right, so that's it for the questions on Google Plus, and we'll get this last one from Slava. So glad Slava joined.
Yeah.
Ben hit us with one at the end too. We'll see. All right. Do you think PhoneGap/Cordova is targeted on amateur applications and prototypes or high-quality production apps? I would say, to me, I think that it's a good way for me to get into the market. still question the long-term viability of, how good is the performance going to be, and do we have access to all the native APIs, and when iOS 8 comes out, like, what's that look like? But I would say that every day the Cordova community grows, I think is going to be more and more interesting, right? Because we have access to the Cordova isomorphic package system, just like we have access to NPM. And so I think that could be really good.
I think there's always going to be like a tier of, native performance and native look and feel that you can't reach with these solutions. But I also don't think every single app needs that. So, there's always going to be apps with like super smooth animations and things moving all around. And people are going to point out like, oh, you can't do that with Cordova. But, 90% of apps are just lists of stuff. So for that, it's probably okay.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't think you're going to build like the next, high-end, game that relies on physics engines or anything like that. Super great animation. Who knows? Maybe we're wrong, but I definitely think that for a lot of apps, just kind of working with and displaying data, Cordova is going to be a great fit for, and notifications and all that stuff, right? Like accessing the location of your phone and that kind of stuff. And again, the isomorphic nature of it, to be able to say like, I want to access location and include a package, and it'll figure out what to do for the web browser or the phone or the tablet, and I don't have to write anything. I just get a location back. Pretty hot.
Yeah.
Pretty hot. All right. Okay. That's marked as done. I'll just say, like, I haven't used Famous, so Ben put on here thoughts on Famous before you all close up shop. Have you used Famous?
No, I haven't. I know what it is, but I haven't used it myself.
Yeah. So I can try to find an expert and maybe see if we can get someone on here. I know there's a guy up in Columbus writing a book, so maybe he'll want to come on to a Q&A session and talk more about Famous, and I'll probably ask a lot of questions too.
I guess my thought is that I've already like bet the house on a new and proven framework once, and I don't know if I want to do it again, so I'm going to leave them a couple more years to work out all the kinks and stuff before I jump on that bandwagon, probably.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I think that's about it. So, where can people find Sacha online?
Discover Meteor.
.com?
DiscoverMeteor.com. Telescope. It's impossible to explain URL. Telescope, but replace the O with a dot, so telesk.pe.
Nice.
It seemed smart at the time, but now every time I have to spell it out, it's like, oh, I should change it.
Yeah, I used to work with a guy, and he'd be like, I hate Wi-Fi passwords, especially when they're complicated, because they're hard to explain. That's funny. And Twitter?
Yeah, or Twitter, twitter.com/Sacha Greif, or SachaGreif.com.
Nice.
I'm easy to find.
Nice, indeed, easy to find. And so, if you're looking for me, I am on, let's see, twitter.com/Josh Owens. Also do the Meteor podcast, meteorpodcast.com. I do the Meteor Club. This is part of the Meteor Club now. Going to try to do this every month. So tune in next month. I may do one solo, or maybe we'll have another Q&A session on, with someone else as well. So Meteor.js.club. And if you sign up on the mailing list there, I will let you know first on the mailing list about when these are happening. And then, gosh, where else? My blog, joshowens.me. I'm guessing some of the people listening to this are more advanced, but I'm also doing a mastering Meteor class. You can go to meteor.js.club/learn and take a look at that. Filled out my first class. Pretty excited about that. Starts on Thursday.
Oh,
Yeah, and then I'm also working on the testing Meteor book, testingmeteor.com. One of these days, I will get back to writing that quite a bit. It's been on hiatus while I got the training class off the ground, and now that I've done that, it's going to be back on my plate quite a bit, so hopefully soon. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this was informative and helpful, and I'll let you know when we're doing it again next month. Thanks, Sasha.
cool. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.